The accident that changed 2 lives. Darren Cole wiped the sweat from his forehead and adjusted the heavy power coupling in his arms. Station Helios 9 was packed today, more crowded than he had seen it in his 2 years working here. Delegates from 20 different worlds had arrived for some kind of summit, and the maintenance crew was working double shifts to keep everything running smoothly. He didn't care much about politics or diplomacy. His job was simple: fix what broke, keep the station operational, and send his paycheck home to help his younger brother finish medical school. Earth was expensive, and their parents were gone. Someone had to step up. The corridor ahead was a chaos of movement. Aliens of every description moved past him, some floating, some walking, others moving in ways that defied easy description. Darren had learned not to stare. After 2 years on the station, the strange had become normal. He rounded the corner near the diplomatic quarters, his mind already on the next repair job. The ventilation system in Sector 7 was acting up again, and if he didn't fix it soon, the station chief would have his head. That was when she appeared. Sienna of House Valora turned the corner at exactly the same moment, moving quickly, her attention focused on the datapad in her hands. She was thinking about the speech her mother expected her to give tomorrow, about the trade agreement that would shape the next decade of her people's interaction with humanity. She wasn't watching where she was going. The collision happened so fast that neither of them had time to react. Darren stumbled backward, the power coupling flying from his hands. His tool belt swung wide, and one of the metal clasps caught on something at Sienna's wrist. He heard a sound like breaking glass, sharp and final. Time seemed to stop. Sienna looked down in horror at her wrist. The crystal bracelet she wore, a beautiful thing that glowed with inner light, had been torn away. Cracks spread across its surface like lightning through a purple sky. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." The crystal shattered. Instead of falling, the fragments hung in the air between them, glowing brighter and brighter. Darren felt a wave of heat wash over him, followed by something else, something that made his head spin and his vision blur. Suddenly, he felt things that weren't his own feelings: fear, shock, desperation, and beneath it all, a pulling sensation, like invisible threads were wrapping around his mind and tying it to something else, to someone else. Sienna gasped. Her people, the Veltharians, were naturally sensitive to mental energy. The bonding crystal was supposed to help her transition into adulthood, anchoring her mind and helping her control her abilities. But now it was broken, and instead of bonding with her own consciousness, it had created a bridge to this human, to the stranger who had just crashed into her. The energy faded. The crystal fragments clattered to the floor, now dull and lifeless. Darren blinked hard, trying to clear the fog from his head. He looked at the woman in front of him. She was tall and elegant, with skin that shimmered like pearl and silver. Her hair was long and dark, almost black, but with strands that caught the light and reflected deep purple. Her eyes were large and luminous, currently wide with horror. She was, he realized with a distant part of his mind, stunningly beautiful. "I'm so sorry," Darren said quickly, bending down to pick up the broken crystal pieces. "I didn't see you. Whatever this is, I'll pay for it. I'll work extra shifts, whatever it takes." Sienna stared at him. She could feel him, not just see him or hear him, but actually sense his emotions as if they were her own. His genuine concern, his embarrassment, his worry about money and responsibility. It was all there, flowing into her mind like water through a broken dam. "You don't understand," she said, her voice shaking. "This isn't something you can pay for. That crystal was sacred. It was bonded to my life force, and now it has bonded to you as well." "Bonded?" frowned Darren. "What does that mean?" Before she could answer,
A group of Velfarians in formal robes pushed through the growing crowd. They were like Sienna, but older, with elaborate markings on their faces and necks that seemed to shift and glow. The one in front, a tall male with silver streaks in his dark hair, looked at the broken crystal and then at Darren with pure contempt. "Seize the human," he commanded, in accented but clear English. 2 guards moved forward. Darren raised his hands. "Wait, this was an accident. I'll make it right." "This is not about restitution," the official said coldly. "You have violated sacred law. You have contaminated a bonding ceremony. The penalty is death." Darren's heart stopped. Death? For breaking a bracelet? "Uncle Theron, please," Sienna stepped between them. "He didn't know. It was my fault. I wasn't looking where I was going." "Step aside, Princess. This human has damaged you beyond repair. He must be eliminated before the contamination spreads." But Sienna didn't move. Through their new connection, she could feel Darren's rising panic. She could sense that he had no understanding of what he had done, that he was just a working man trying to help his family, that he never meant to harm anyone. The bond showed her things about him in rapid flashes. A younger boy in a university dorm studying late into the night. Bills and debts, long shifts in dangerous conditions. Everything he did was for someone else. "The bond has already formed," Sienna said quietly. "Can't you feel it, Uncle? The crystal didn't just break. It transferred its purpose. If you kill him now, you kill me as well." Theron's expression darkened. "All the reason to act quickly. We can sever the connection before it takes root. You will survive." "She's lying," another voice said. Sienna's mother, Counselor Mirana, emerged from the crowd. She was smaller than her daughter, but carried herself with absolute authority. She looked at Sienna with disappointment. "The bond takes 3 days to become permanent. We have time to fix this." "You can't fix it," Sienna said. "I can already feel it growing. Mother, please, he's innocent." But the guards had already grabbed Darren's arms. He didn't resist, knowing it would only make things worse. Through the bond, Sienna felt his fear spike, but also something else, a stubborn determination. This man wasn't going to beg or grovel, even facing death. As they dragged him away, Darren looked back at her. Their eyes met, and the bond flared stronger. Sienna gasped as emotions flooded through her. Not anger or resentment, but concern. He was worried about her, about what would happen to her because of this accident. "I'm sorry," Darren called out before they pulled him around a corner. Sienna stood in the corridor, staring at the broken crystal pieces on the floor. Her mother was talking, saying something about honor and duty and the family's reputation, but Sienna barely heard. All she could focus on was the presence in her mind that hadn't been there an hour ago. Darren Cole. She could still feel him even as they took him away. The bond was real. It was growing, and according to everything she had been taught, if it wasn't completed properly within 30 days, it would kill her. The crowd dispersed. Station life returned to normal. But for Sienna and Darren, nothing would ever be normal again. One moment of carelessness tied their fates together, binding an alien princess to a human worker, and the universe itself seemed to hold its breath to see what would happen next.
The escape. The detention cell was freezing. Darren sat on the metal bench, his mind racing. Every few minutes he felt something strange ripple through his consciousness, waves of emotion that weren't his own. Fear, anger, sadness, determination. He knew somehow that they came from Sienna, the alien princess whose life he had accidentally destroyed. Hours crawled by. No one came to explain anything or offer him a chance to defend himself. Darren paced the small space, trying to think of a way out. He needed to contact Jackson, his best friend who worked in the docking bay. Jackson would help, but the guards had taken his communication device. The station's artificial night cycle had begun when the cell door suddenly opened. Sienna stood there, wearing a dark cloak with the hood pulled low over her face. Her luminous eyes were wide with fear, but her jaw was set with determination. Behind her, 2 guards lay unconscious on the floor. "We have to leave," she said urgently, "right now." Darren stared at her. "What did you do?" "I stunned them. There's no time to explain everything. My mother's security team isn't planning to hold you for trial. They're going to kill you tonight and make it look like you tried to escape. I overheard them discussing it." Through the bond, Darren felt the truth of her words. He also felt her terror, not for herself, but for him. "Why are you helping me?" he asked. Sienna met his eyes. "Because this bond lets me see who you really are, your memories, your feelings, your intentions. You're not what my people think humans are. You're just trying to survive and help your brother. You don't deserve to die for an accident neither of us could prevent." Darren grabbed his tool belt from the evidence locker and followed her into the corridor. "Where do we go?" "I have access to the private docking bay where my family's ships are kept. There's a diplomatic courier vessel there. Can you fly it?" "Not well," Darren admitted, "but I know someone who can." They moved through the maintenance passages that Darren knew from his work. The bond helped them coordinate their movements, each sensing when the other needed to pause or hurry. It was unsettling but useful. Jackson Torres was in his quarters, half asleep, when Darren pounded on the door. The former military pilot opened it looking annoyed, but his expression changed immediately when he saw Darren's face. "How bad?" Jackson asked, already reaching for his jacket. "Very bad," Darren said. "I need you to fly us off this station." Jackson noticed Sienna for the first time. His eyebrows rose. "Is that a Veltharian princess?" "Long story. Can you help or not?" Jackson grinned. "I was getting bored with legitimate work anyway. Let's go." Into the unknown. The 3 of them made it to the private docking bay without being spotted. The courier ship Sienna had mentioned was sleek and beautiful, built for speed rather than cargo. Jackson walked around it once, his eyes gleaming with appreciation. "She's fast, real fast. Where are we headed?" "Anywhere outside council jurisdiction. The frontier territories, maybe. Somewhere my family's authority doesn't reach." "The frontier is dangerous," Jackson warned. "Pirates, smugglers, mercenaries. It's not a place for diplomats and princesses." "It's better than certain death," Darren said. They were strapping into their seats when alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red emergency lights flashed in the corridors. "They found the guards. We need to leave now." Jackson's fingers flew over the controls. "Hang on, this is going to be rough." The ship lifted off its pad and shot toward the docking bay exit. Behind them, 2 security vessels were launching in pursuit. Jackson pushed the courier ship into a sharp roll, dodging the first wave of warning shots. "They're not trying to disable us," Jackson said grimly. "They're shooting to kill." Sienna closed her eyes, reaching out with her mental abilities. Through the bond, she shared what she was doing with Darren. He felt her consciousness expand, touching the minds of the pilots chasing them. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Buying us time," she said through gritted teeth. The pursuing ships suddenly broke off their attack, their pilots confused and disoriented by Sienna's mental interference. It wouldn't last long, but it gave Jackson the opening he needed. He pushed the ship into a faster speed, and they shot away from Station Helios 9 into the darkness of space. Learning to connect. 3 days into their journey, they stopped at a small remote trading post to refuel and gather supplies. Jackson stayed with the ship, while Darren and Sienna ventured into the crowded marketplace, both wearing hoods to hide their identities. "How are you feeling?" Darren asked as they walked through the stalls. "The bond is growing stronger," Sienna admitted. "I can feel your emotions more clearly now. Sometimes I even catch glimpses of your thoughts. Is that normal?" "For a completed bond, yes, but ours is incomplete. That's the problem." She paused at a stall selling exotic fruits. Darren, there's something I need to tell you. If we don't complete the bonding ritual properly within 30 days, the connection will become unstable. It will damage both our minds, but for me, it will be fatal." Darren stopped walking. "Fatal? You mean you'll die?" "Yes. The crystal was designed to bond with another Velfarian during a sacred ceremony. Instead, it bonded with you, a human. Our biologies are different. Our mental structures are different. Without the proper completion ritual, the bond will try to force compatibility and destroy me in the process." "Then we need to find someone who can complete this ritual," Darren said immediately. "Where do we go?" Sienna looked at him with surprise. "Aren't you angry? You didn't ask for this bond. You could just leave me and save yourself." "That's not who I am," Darren said simply. "Besides, I can feel what you're feeling, remember? I know you're terrified. I know you're trying to be brave. And I know you saved my life back on that station. I'm not going to abandon you." Something shifted in Sienna's expression. Through the bond, Darren felt a wave of warmth and gratitude from her, mixed with something else, something deeper that made his heart beat faster. "There might be someone who can help," Sienna said softly, "an exile from my world. She was banished decades ago for refusing an arranged bonding. The stories say she fled to the frontier and learned ancient rituals that the council had forbidden. If anyone knows how to complete a broken bond, it would be her." "Then that's where we go," Darren said. "What's her name?" "Grandmother Tessia. She lives on a colony world called Crimson Haven." Growing closer. The journey to Crimson Haven took another week. During that time, Darren and Sienna spent hours together learning to navigate their bond. At first, it was overwhelming, feeling each other's emotions so intensely, but gradually they learned to create boundaries, to give each other mental privacy when needed. They also talked, really talked, about their lives and their worlds. Sienna told him about growing up in the royal court, about the pressure to be perfect, to represent her family and her people with grace and dignity. She spoke of feeling like a beautiful ornament rather than a person, valued for her bloodline rather than herself. Darren shared his own story about losing his parents in an accident when he was 19, about raising his younger brother while working multiple jobs, about the guilt he felt for leaving Earth even though his brother had insisted he take the opportunity. "You carry so much responsibility," Sienna said one evening as they sat together in the ship's small observation lounge, watching the stars streak past. "But you don't complain. You just do what needs to be done." "Someone has to," Darren said with a shrug. "My brother is smart, really smart. He's going to be an amazing doctor. I'm just a mechanic. Making sure he succeeds is the most important thing I can do." "You're not just a mechanic, Darren," Sienna said. She reached out and took his hand. The physical contact made the bond flare brighter, and both of them gasped at the intensity of sensation. "You carry so much responsibility. You're not just a mechanic, Darren," Sienna said. She reached out and took his hand. The physical contact made the bond flare brighter, and both of them gasped at the intensity of sensation. "You carry so much responsibility." She reached out and took his hand. The physical contact made the bond flare brighter, and both of them gasped at the intensity of sensation. "You're not just a mechanic, Darren," Sienna said. She reached out and took his hand. The physical contact made the bond flare brighter, and both of them gasped at the intensity of sensation. "You're not just a mechanic, Darren," Sienna said. She reached out and took his hand. The physical contact made the bond flare brighter, and both of them gasped at the intensity of sensation. "You're not just a mechanic, Darren," Sienna said. She reached out and took his hand. The physical contact made the bond flare brighter, and both of them gasped at the intensity of sensation. "You're not just a mechanic, Darren," Sienna said. She reached out and took his hand. The physical contact made the bond flare brighter, and both of them gasped at the intensity of sensation. "You're not just a mechanic, Darren," Sienna said. She reached out and took his hand. The physical contact made the bond flare brighter, and both of them gasped at the intensity of sensation.
"You're not just a mechanic, Darren," Sienna said. She reached out and took his hand. The physical contact made the bond flare brighter, and both of them gasped at the intensity of sensation. "You're not just a mechanic, Darren," Sienna said. She reached out and took his hand. The physical contact made the bond flare brighter.
Crimson Haven. The colony of Crimson Haven was unlike anything Darren had expected. Built into the walls of a massive canyon, the settlement seemed to grow out of the red rock itself. Buildings clung to the cliff faces, connected by bridges and walkways that swayed gently in the wind. The sky above was a deep orange, filled with swirling dust that caught the light of the system's twin suns. "It's beautiful," Sienna said softly as they walked through the crowded market district. "It's also lawless," Jackson reminded them. He had insisted on coming along, his hand never far from the weapon at his hip. "Keep your heads down and don't draw attention." Finding Grandmother Tessia proved easier than expected. When they asked about her at a local tavern, several people pointed them toward the highest level of the canyon settlement, where a small temple stood carved into the rock face. The climb took an hour. By the time they reached the temple entrance, all three of them were breathing hard from the thin air. A figure waited for them at the door. She was ancient, her skin wrinkled and marked with faded ceremonial tattoos, but her eyes were sharp and knowing, and when she looked at Sienna and Darren, she smiled. "I was wondering when you would arrive," Tessia said in a voice like dry leaves rustling. "I felt the bond break and reform halfway across the galaxy. Come inside, we have much to discuss." The truth about bonding. Tessia's temple was simple but beautiful, filled with crystals that caught and reflected the orange sunlight. She served them tea and listened as Sienna explained everything that had happened. "You were fortunate," Sienna said when the story was finished. "If the bond had been rejected by either of you, if there had been hatred or fear in your hearts, you would both already be dead. The fact that you're here, still sane and healthy, means the bond found compatibility." "But we were told it would kill Sienna if we don't complete the ritual," Darren said. "That's partially true," Tessia replied. "An incomplete bond is unstable. It will cause increasing pain and confusion as it tries to force your minds into harmony. Eventually, yes, it could be fatal, but you two have already done most of the work yourselves." "We have?" Sienna asked. "The bond is built on 3 pillars: understanding, trust, and love. You've been building understanding since the moment the connection formed. You've demonstrated trust by escaping together and protecting each other. And love?" Tessia smiled knowingly. "Love is already growing, isn't it?" Both Darren and Sienna blushed, but neither denied it. "The completion ritual is simple, but it requires absolute honesty and vulnerability from both of you. You must open yourselves completely to each other, holding nothing back, and accept what you find. Only then will the bond stabilize and become permanent." "When can we do it?" Darren asked. "Tonight, when the twin suns set. But I must warn you, once this bond is completed, it cannot be undone. You will be connected for the rest of your lives. Sienna will feel your pain, your joy, your every emotion, and you will feel hers. You will never truly be alone again." "I understand," Darren said, looking at Sienna. "As do I," Sienna said softly. The brothers' arrival. They spent the afternoon preparing for the ritual. Jackson went back to the ship to stand guard, while Tessia taught Darren and Sienna the meditation techniques they would need. The bond between them was already so strong that they found it easy to synchronize their breathing and their heartbeats. As the twin suns began to set, painting the canyon in shades of crimson and gold, they heard shouts from below. Jackson's voice came through on Darren's communicator, urgent and alarmed. "We have company. Velfarian warship just landed in the main docking area. They're looking for you." Sienna's face went pale.
My brother, he found us. Moments later, a group of armored guards burst into the temple, followed by a tall, imposing figure. Prince Valen looked like an older male version of Sienna, but where her eyes held warmth, his held only cold fury. "Sister," he said in their language, "step away from the human, now." "No," Sienna said, moving closer to Darren instead. "I am not asking. Mother has granted me authority to end this disgrace by any means necessary. You will come home, and this creature will die. His name is Darren, and I love him." The words hung in the air like a declaration of war. Valen's expression darkened further. "Then you have truly fallen," he said. "Guards, seize the human." Darren stepped forward, placing himself between the guards and Sienna. "I'm not going anywhere, and neither is she." "You dare defy me?" Valen's hand went to the weapon at his side. "Stop!" Tessia's voice cracked like thunder through the temple. Though she was ancient and small, something in her presence made everyone freeze. "You bring violence into a sacred place, Prince Valen? Your arrogance has blinded you to the truth." "What truth, old woman?" "Look at them. Really look." Tessia gestured to Darren and Sienna. "Their bond is nearly complete. It has found harmony. Do you know how rare that is? Most bondings are arranged, forced, tolerated at best, but these two have found something precious, a bond built on genuine love." "It's an abomination," Valen said. "A bonding between our kind and a human? It goes against everything we believe." "It goes against what the Council believes," Tessia corrected. "But the crystals don't care about politics or prejudice. They respond to the heart, and these two hearts have chosen each other." Valen looked at his sister, and for a moment something softened in his expression. "Sienna, think about what you're doing. If you complete this bond, you can never come home. Mother will disown you. Father will erase your name from the family records. You lose everything." "I lose nothing that matters," Sienna said. She took Darren's hand. "I've spent my whole life being who everyone else wanted me to be. For once, I want to choose for myself, and I choose him." Through the bond, Darren felt the absolute certainty of her words, the fierce love behind them. His heart swelled with emotion so powerful it nearly overwhelmed him. "Then you are no longer my sister," Valen said quietly. He turned to his guards. "We're leaving. Let the frontier have them both." "Brother, wait," Sienna called out. Valen paused at the doorway. "What?" "Thank you for letting us go." "I'm not doing this for you," Valen said without turning around. "I'm doing it because even I can see that this bond is real, and killing it would be like killing love itself. Even I'm not that cruel." He walked out, his guards following him. The completion. As darkness fell over Crimson Haven, Tessia prepared the temple for the bonding ritual. Crystals were arranged in a circle, each one glowing with inner light. Darren and Sienna sat facing each other in the center, their hands joined. "Close your eyes," Tessia instructed. "Open your minds completely. Hold nothing back. Let the bond do what it was meant to do." Darren took a deep breath and let go of his defenses. Immediately he felt Sienna's presence flood into his mind, but this time it wasn't overwhelming. It felt right, like coming home. He saw her memories, felt her emotions, the loneliness of growing up in the royal court, the pressure of expectations, the longing for something real, something genuine, and beneath it all, the growing love she felt for him, for this human man who had accidentally crashed into her life and changed everything. In turn, Sienna saw into his heart. She felt his guilt over leaving his brother, his constant worry about money and responsibility. She experienced his fear that he wasn't good enough for her, and she felt his love, pure and powerful and true. "I see you," Darren whispered. "I see you," Sienna responded. The crystals around them flared brighter. The bond between them surged and stabilized, clicking into place like the final piece of a puzzle. They gasped simultaneously as the connection solidified, becoming permanent and unbreakable. When they opened their eyes, everything had changed. The bond was no longer a foreign presence in their minds. It was simply part of who they were now, as natural as breathing. "It's done," Tessia said with satisfaction. "You are truly bonded now. May you find happiness together." A new beginning. 3 months later, Darren stood on the balcony of their new home, carved into the canyon wall of Crimson Haven. The settlement had accepted them, as it accepted all refugees and runaways. Here, no one cared about royal bloodlines or human-alien prejudices. Sienna came up behind him, wrapping her arms around his waist. Through their bond, he felt her contentment, her happiness. "Any regrets?" he asked. "Not a single one," she said. "You? Only that I didn't crash into you sooner." She laughed, the sound like music. "Jackson sent a message. Your brother passed his final exams. He's going to be a doctor." "That's